So I found an older collection of games on eBay. It's kind of like a random assortment of different titles, and one part of this in particular sort of set me down a nostalgia trip. And if you're from, say, the PS2, Xbox, GameCube, even 360, PS3, Wii era, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about when I open this up. And this could even be a good path for someone who maybe just wants to get back into retro gaming, maybe get different games for previous systems that they had at one point in time, and they just want the experience of putting the disc in the system and actually playing on real hardware, but they don't care about the cases. And it's hard to argue when it comes to the price point here, as the 45 games cost me about $50 or so with shipping. That's pretty good. A little more than $1 per game. Hard to push back on that one. And what you're going to see here is, well, a more realistic situation as to what you would actually get if you ordered a random lot of different games on eBay. So if you guys enjoyed the video, hit that like button, subscribe if you're new. So back in the day, when you would go over to a friend's house, you would see something sitting next to their system, whether it's a PlayStation 2, a GameCube, whatever. You might have a big old CD case next to it. And this is indeed how we would store our games back then. Again, if you're unaware of this time period, we would naturally have like the game cases that they would come with DVD size cases, and you'd put them up on your bookshelf. But many people would indeed use cases like these, just have all their loose games packed in, and it was a way for you to flip through them very quickly and grab one and pop it into the system. So when I saw this, I just thought it was the funniest thing, because I don't keep my games like this anymore. I am curious, anyone in the description or down in the comments, let me know if you still have a CD case and that's how you keep any of your loose games, or even just games that you don't feel like having them up on a shelf and in cases. Now, I know many people are currently just digital, so you don't have to worry about physical games. Obviously, back in the day, that was all you had were physical games. So you had to figure out a way, if you had like 30, 40 some odd games, maybe very fortunate even at a younger age you're able to have that many. This was a way to kind of compact your collection. And I'm sure many people did throw away a lot of cases, which is quite unfortunate now looking back on it with values of things like GameCube titles. But, nonetheless, let's see. We're going to open this up, and this should be just an assortment of games from PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, 360, Xbox, all of that, right? So that kind of generation. And it was more or less kind of just looking through and kind of discussing some of the games that I find here, like Spec Ops, for example. I wonder what condition some of these games are in. It's actually not bad. I mean, PS1 games in general, because they are like the kind of black bottom disc, they do show scratches much more than like a silver bottom disc, or even like Madagascar is a blue, which is a CD. So I unfortunately don't have any experience with that one. Even Spec Ops back then, I know Spec Ops The Line was a much more popular, more recent, I'll say, Spec Ops. And I played that one. I didn't play any of the older PS1 Spec Ops, though. Of course, you have the Lego Star Wars 2 there. And okay, this is like all over the place. And I do remember this as well. Back in the day, you'd have, for some reason, one game in like a section of, in this case, 4. And sometimes that's because maybe one game was being used, and for some reason these 2 are just upside down on a desk or on the entertainment center or something. Let's see, we have Iron Man, Greatest Hits, Viet Cong, Splinter Cell Chaos. This is an absolute classic right here. This is a game, by the way, Splinter Cell Chaos Theory, that looks significantly different on the original Xbox versus the other consoles at that time. And this is a game that really, to me, shows just how much more powerful, I guess, the original Xbox, or more capable it was. It used like bump mapping and stuff, and like the ground textures looked way better. Of course, SOCOM. It's classic as well. Really, if I looked at what I paid for this, and it's roughly $1 a game. I guess if you take into account the CD case, whatever that's valued at, which probably isn't a ton, might be less than that even. Let's see, we have what I expected was mostly sports games, although we technically haven't had as many so far, but 2K13, 2K6, I don't know what Supercar Street Challenges exactly. This is one that I certainly missed, a blue bottom disc to a CD. But as Activision did it as well. No clue with that one. Interesting. Look that up. See what game that is exactly. Over here, though, we have Tomb Raider, Angel of Darkness. Not a great outing for it. Although I haven't played this in a long time. I actually loaded this up because I do have it. I already have this one, but I loaded this up on the PS2 when I was doing, I think, the memory card video with the newer memory card, and I played a little bit of it, and it's still a very clunky game. I wouldn't mind going back through it because this was a game a friend of mine rented way back when, and we played through it there. So I didn't play through it on like my own PS2. It was a friend's PlayStation 2 back then. But then we also have Ty, of course, which is a mascot that pretty much got left behind in that generation. And hey, Madden when it was actually good back in 2007. The classic blank CD pages, for some reason, halfway through. Again, it wasn't any rhyme or reason for a lot of the way people kept their CD cases back then. Although I did have one friend who alphabetized all of it. So at least their cases were pretty easy to go through, but they would get annoyed with you if you put one out of order, we'll say. Brothers in Arms, this is one I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind having this franchise come back. And the thing that I remember stuck out to me back then with this game, it was much more violent than the Call of Duty games, which sounds weird. Because Call of Duty, clearly, if you look at it now, is a violent game, technically. But back then, Call of Duty was teen-rated, and it wasn't until I think Call of Duty, it must have been 4, Modern Warfare, when they went to the M rating. But I think it was T because it was very much historical. Brothers in Arms did all kinds of stuff to earn that mature rating, but it felt different enough from what we had versus Call of Duty. I wouldn't mind seeing that franchise come back, see what they can do with some of the newer technology. Here's one I never played, Men in Black 2 Alien Escape. I can't imagine that, ooh, that one has seen better days. Now we're talking, we have Veggie Tales, huh? Larry Boy and the Bad Apple on the PS2. Who made this? This was Crave Games. Never heard of them before. And then we have, let's see, Kingdoms of Amalur, Reckoning. Of course, we had that remake. Then we have one of the all-time greats back then. I know people love Gran Turismo 4. Gran Turismo 3, when this broke onto the scene with the PS2 in its early days, this set that generation up. This was incredible looking back then. I bet you if I popped this in now, it would look kind of crunchy, but it was, man, if you were there when this thing dropped, it was like the right time, right place, and the PS2 was like off and running from there, never looked back. Oh, look, we have some PS3 games. Actually, these aren't bad. Medal of Honor Limited Edition, which, fortunately, Medal of Honor hasn't really been able to recover or come back. I mean, back in the day, Medal of Honor was big. Like, during that Xbox, PS2, GameCube generation, there's some very good Medal of Honor games, and especially on the PC. And there's 2, actually. Oh, wow, they actually gave me both Halo 4 discs. Usually, I'm used to just having one or the other, but Halo 4 did come with 2 discs back in the day. So, we also have Killzone 3. Like, this isn't bad, actually. They have, like, a Killzone 3 right here. MLB The Show 12. Killzone, another one. I mean, this is, I think, if anything, I know we may not see another Killzone because the studio behind it, Guerrilla, is on to mostly constant Horizon releases. I wouldn't mind seeing them just do something with these games to bring them up to the current systems, like the PS5 and let's be real, probably PC. But I think that would actually be an interesting thing for them to do. This, again, not bad. Look, so we have FIFA 12, Battlefield 3 Limited Edition, Overwatch Origins Edition, Trials Fusion, which Trials is still a lot of fun. And, I mean, these should all work on the PS5, technically. So I might actually play that. I got a kick out of Trials back in the day. Red Dead Redemption on the PS3. Man, I think I played Red Dead Redemption on the 360 mostly. We just recently got it remastered, right? Tiger Woods PGA Tour 10, underrated series on the Wii specifically. People would come into the store all the time to get Tiger Woods on the Wii because you would use the Wii remote, obviously, to golf. So it would mimic the idea of hitting the ball down the fairway. And it did pretty well in sort of like this party setting where you didn't have to explain all these controls to somebody who came over. You gave them the Wii remote and said swing like a golf club, and they did. And it mostly got the job done. Link's crossbow training. I didn't really get into this much back in the day, but it, of course, used the idea of the Wii Remote where you were shooting a crossbow. And then Terminator Dawn of Fate. Unfortunately, not a lot of experience with the Terminator games during this generation. Let's see, is this the last page? It is. Wow, look at all these extra pages I have to store all my CDs and DVDs. Let's see, we have, oh, look at that, save the best for last. Superman Returns. It's a shame we never got like a really good Superman game. You feel like that character should, oh, okay, well, should line up with just video games, but for some reason, the Superman character is so difficult to do. And I've thought about it actually quite a bit because we had almost Rocksteady, the rumors were around them doing it, and they show up with Suicide Squad. Thought about like, okay, they do the typical Metroid kind of thing where you have all your powers in the beginning and they figure out a way to take them from Superman. They video game it up. Really, that's what you have to do. Figure out how Superman loses all his powers, turns into what's essentially like a mortal, just like regular person basically, and then he works to get all of his powers back. Yes, it's a typical video game trope in terms of setup for the entire game, but I think it would be kind of fun to be able to do that, go around, get Superman's powers back, and play it up to be like super dramatic. We have Modern Warfare 2, and then Medal of Honor Heroes 2, which, if I'm not mistaken, this one is actually pretty impressive for just the franchise in general on the Wii, because I think this is the one that had like 30 players online at once, and that's for the Wii. So this one is kind of under the radar, and if you're like going back through the Wii library, maybe you were a fan of it growing up, and it was like it's nostalgic for you, I would actually check out like the Medal of Honor franchise, specifically Heroes 2, just because of some of the stuff that it was able to do on, I mean, what was seen as kind of a souped up GameCube. To be able to do some of the online stuff that this did, it was really impressive. But like I said, just kind of a fun little retro nostalgia video. Let me know down below if you had your own CD case, how you kept it, or if this is just weird to you because you're either all digital or you never actually kept any of your games in a CD case like this. Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.